Alrighty then. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the CA Spectrum Community Webcast. Today we have Nagesh Jaswal. He'll be talking to you about wireless monitoring with Spectrum. We will take questions at the end of the presentation, either via the Q&A window in WebEx. You'll see it up in the right-hand corner, or by hitting *6, which will unmute your line, and you can ask a question via the phone. Again, thank you for joining, and at this time, I'll turn the call over to Nagesh.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webcast. I would thank you for all taking time and joining the session. So today we'll talk about the wireless monitoring to Spectrum. Along with me, I have my, so let me introduce first. I'm Nagesh Jaswal, part of product management team and take care of Spectrum. And then along with me, I have Dhcp Singh, who's my colleague, and then we have Vijay, who is a senior engineer in Spectrum team, worked on this feature. So feel free to ask questions in the chat window, and then we'll help you to assist some of them, if not all, and then we can take a few as a follow-up after that. So we wanted to do this session as people are using mobile devices on corporate networks at an explosive rate, and in a part of companies, they're embracing this bring your own device policies and offering employees to access the corporate resources on their phones, on their tablets, on their laptops, and as a result of that, managing wireless network has become a full-time task for network operators. And there is where CA Spectrum comes in as a single source of truth for your root cause analysis and fault isolation for wired as well as your wireless network. Via a single interface, the solution empowers the IT department by monitoring, reporting, and performing the root cause analysis on your wired network, wireless network, and as well as your virtual networks over there. These features was available in 10.2 as well as in 10.1. I know most of you are already using this successfully in your environment, and some of you are still testing, and then you have certain questions and certain enhancements to this, and then part of this session was to hear your voice that what are those top 10 things you want us to improve in this feature. And obviously we'll do a follow-up after that. You can obviously reach out to me to my email address. So this is the agenda for next an hour that now we'll go through the value proposition, what CA Spectrum will bring you in terms of wireless monitoring. We'll just go through the solution overview. I'll talk about the features, and then we'll just walk through a demo. And then I'll touch upon some roadmap things which are coming as a part of future releases in Spectrum, and then we can obviously open up for questions. So I won't spend much time so that we have enough scope for Q&A, and that was one of the intention to connect with you guys on that. To start with obviously the value proposition. Now, most of the wireless solutions are vendor specific, and they don't connect the wireless network back to the wired network. If you are managing and monitoring your wireless network in isolation, then you obviously run into risk of missing out critical information or being proactive, I'm sorry. So CA Spectrum brings your wireless network logically into Spectrum management without treating it as an isolated technology. And far often the network teams learn about the wireless problems and issues from the users, and after gathering the triage problems only to uncover that no, the AP was overloaded or issue was something else. So Spectrum is specifically designed for a proactive monitoring approach to manage your wireless network, and it gives an operator the tools to manage and control the wireless network, which will help you reduce the outages and make your wireless network stable as your wired network. And another advantage obviously we have is we are vendor agnostic. We support Aruba, we support Cisco, and obviously there are much more coming in the future releases. So that's the value proposition of how this tool brings you in terms of monitoring wireless. Now, just let's talk about what the solution brings to you. So the CA Spectrum wireless solution holistically brings the wireless device management within the purview. So it forms a single pane of glass, and users can see that physical virtual routers, switches, server, plus connected wireless controllers and access point to these routers and switches. Not only Spectrum would automatically discover the controllers and access point, but also give the information about the connected devices and drive the root cause and alarm suppression with that. It will actually give back control to the administrator so that the administrators can control the number of access points connecting to the wireless controller, number of active users per access point, amount of data that is uploading and downloading through your access points per user, this gives a lot of control to the administrator and then helps in proactive monitoring. So being able to control the number of access points and number of users and the amount of data puts your network operators in proactive position to manage the wireless network. In addition, the solution will also alert, in case of you are adding new access point is getting removed, it's migrated to another wireless controller. So all those of events and alarms and those notifications are inbuilt in this solution, which will help you further to analyze the root cause and impact in the larger scale. Moving forward, let's see how it works now. This is the critical differentiation over here. You don't have to give your entire range of devices into Spectrum now. All you have to do is you discover your wireless controller, or you feed in your wireless controller into information into Spectrum, and what Spectrum does is it discovers the controller, it models into Spectrum. The next thing it does is it will read the information within your wireless controller about the connected access points, and that's where it will form that association and show in the Explorer view that for these controllers, these many access points are being connected. The next thing what Spectrum does is it will connect your controllers, your access points, back to your layer 2 switches and routers, and then it forms that full end-to-end visualization for you, and so that you see that how your controllers and access points are connected and how many devices are in between and all those things. The next thing and the last thing is you get to see your mobile stations and your users connected, but that is on demand. So once you go into those one-click views, expand the one-click views on demand, Spectrum will poll for that data and get you all those users. So I'll show you while we do that demo for that. So this was a high-level overview that how the flow will work like when Spectrum does the discovery of your devices. So the advantage you get is you don't have to really remember the range of your access points. Just feed in your controller, and then Spectrum will do the rest. And that's where we thought it's important to touch upon this point that wherein Spectrum is very flexible in terms of discovery, and then there is various mechanisms in which we can discover your controllers and access point. First and foremost, obviously, you can create the controller by create by IP model, that option which you have in the topology view. I'll show you later. And what it will do is it will model your controller and your access points. I'll show you the configuration where you can enable and disable the discovery of access points if you don't want to wish to, and that setting is available in NVNM model. So that is one option which you can do by create by IP. Second is within your WLC manager, if you discover controllers and later point of time you want to discover the access points. So within the WLC manager you have an option where you can go and run the access point discovery, and then Spectrum will discover the access points and associate with that controller. And lastly, you have a discovery console, and within that discovery console you have a modeling option where you can see whether you want to an option where you want to enable or disable the access point discovery when you are modeling or discovering the controller. So that is one thing which we thought we'll touch upon, the flexible model of Spectrum in terms of discovery of your wireless inventory here. So coming to the one-click views, it gives you an Explorer view in the left-hand side where you have all the controllers listed. Under controller, you will have all the access points which are associated with those controllers. Then you have one-click views panes where you can see your information about the controller, information about your access point, a number of access points connected, number of clients and mobile stations connected. You have a end-to-end visualization, the topology view, which will show you actually how your controllers and access point are connected in your network infrastructure, and that's where you can also see any root cause or fault isolation happening live on the visualization tool over there. And since you have large network, most of you, we have provided an ability of a spotlight view. So in terms of you want to see in your network how your controllers and access points are associated, you can quickly go into spotlight view, click on the controller, and it will show you what all access points have been associated and how they look into the network over there. So another great feature which most of you are using or you can use. Lastly, the locator searches. A lot of you have a lot of access points and controllers. So for example, one of the current Spectrum customer retailer has 55,000 access points, and this search ability is very handy in such cases where they can quickly go and check for your access points and controllers and keep a track of the inventory over there. So these are the various one-click views which provide a better management in terms of managing your wireless network over there. Moving on, Spectrum will support all sort of traps which are for the wireless NIPs. It will also have the event support. So we have an events tab where you can see what all is happening with your controllers and access points. All alarms of access point will be associated or associated to the respective wireless controllers, and I'll show you that view in shortly. So these alarms and traps and events again give you much more powers to see what's going on in your network, how the root cause is being driven, what all are happening with your access points, like if they're migrating, they're associating, they're disassociating. So all sort of events are captured into event, and that's where it becomes a single console for your alarms and events and all those things. And a lot of automation can be driven from such events and alarms. So other things which we do and support with Spectrum is obviously one of the things which we do with all the devices is the maintenance mode support, where you can go and keep your controller into maintenance mode, and Spectrum will suppress the alarms for the respective devices which are in maintenance mode. We do support AP migration, access point migration. So in most of your cases, your access point would be migrating from one controller to another controller, and what Spectrum does is it identifies based on the event which is coming over there that a particular access point has been migrated to one controller to another. And you can see those events coming to Spectrum, and also in the Explorer view, you will see that the access point is getting migrated from one controller to another controller over there. So another great feature to keep track of your controllers and associated access points over there. Third thing is about the fault tolerance scenario. In particularly with Cisco, you have your controllers configured in fault tolerance mode, and Spectrum do recognize that, and you will see those fault tolerance scenarios supported into Spectrum. And this is especially the case of as access point SSO case, where you can see your controllers changing the role from primary to secondary, and that's where Spectrum will identify that. Lastly, and most of you guys complained about that, was your access points are DHCP enabled, and in some of the cases when your access points is getting rebooted, Spectrum will not be able to handle that. So we have fixed that issue. Now, whenever your access point gets rebooted and your IPs change, Spectrum will be able to detect that, and it will instead of creating a duplicate model, it will update the same model with another IP address over there. So another thing which we acted on the feedback received directly from you, and obviously we have intention to improve it further as well. Lastly, the thing which we talk about every time is about the proactive monitoring approach into Spectrum, and that is about threshold configuration. So what you can do at the controller level is you can go and configure thresholds in terms of number of access points connected, number of users connected to access point, and the upload and download volume, and all those things. So that gives you a lot of power or a lot of control over your wireless network and a proactive approach, so that before anything goes wrong, you know that's going to happen, and you can take some preventive measures to avoid that. So let's quickly talk about few scenarios, taking an example that how wireless monitoring today is being used across organizations, and then some of the examples we have put to help to understand the examples. What we have done is taken an example of a persona and an organization. So in this my example, this is a bank, and the persona is Tom, who is a NOC engineer monitoring the network. And obviously, wireless network is the primary responsibility, because much of the bank's business depends on the wireless access point deployed across, and they're using Spectrum tool. So one of the scenario which we thought which we wanted to tell you is a problem statement. Let's assume a scenario where a user is not able to connect to a wireless network despite he's getting a strong signal in his laptop. And this meeting is happening in a boardroom of a bank, and then there are delegates sitting over there. And Steve is the person who wants to do a presentation, showcase the key capabilities of the bank products, but he's unable to log in through the laptop. He's unable to connect to the Wi-Fi network, and getting the authentication failure message. Now, how does Spectrum helps you there? Since you have configured the thresholds, you come to know that the number of access points, number of users connected to that access point have been exceeded actually. So Steve has done that in Spectrum. He has configured those thresholds, and when he hears about this complaint, before hearing about the complaint, he comes to know that in that business room meeting, something is going wrong, as he receives that threshold violation alarm that the number has been exceeded. So he goes and fixes that by whatever means he can do that. Either he can reduce the number of users over there, or whatever measures he can do that. So the point we are trying to make is, based on this capability, this is how you can avoid disasters which are critical to your businesses over there. Now, second thing is these thresholds would actually help in also monitoring the behavior of your access points. So just to take an example over here, if those thresholds are happening very often, then you come to know that the number of access points deployed in a particular floor, in a particular room, or in a particular lab are less than what it should be based on your user data, based on your application data, or based on all the thresholds which are received. So you have a pattern. Based on that pattern, you can also determine that, okay, so this conference room actually needs one more access point because it hosts so many users, and this access point will not able to handle so many users, so you have to deploy one more access point over there. The point I'm trying to make is these threshold configurations also help you in determining that patterns. So when you get those threshold alarms, you can actually decide on your capacity planning of your access point deployment on your floors, in your buildings, and in your conference room over there. Another example which I wanted to give you, and this is very specifically in India real-time scenario, where one of the largest service provider or a system integrator actually has deployed offices in high-tech city Hyderabad. They do not use any wired network. All their cubicles, all their infrastructure is on wireless network access points. All the development environment is in cloud. So now you can imagine the importance of wireless networks going in, and it's a nightmare for those network engineers to manage this wireless network, because anything goes down in that floor, entire business is impacted, engineers not able to access the cloud or the network, and then the productivity goes down. So another example is real time, which I have not quoted here, but wanted to share with you guys that this is happening very often, where the newer buildings, the newer organizations, or the newer facilities that are coming up, they are not even deploying their wired network, and more depending on the wireless networks to run their businesses over there. And that is where a tool like CS Spectrum, where it's very important to proactively monitor, helps you in doing that. So I just wanted to give you one more example that how important this threshold configuration helps you in that aspect. Second is obviously the fault isolation, which is the bread and butter of Spectrum. So in this case, just wanted to give an example that you receive a ticket that certain user or set of users are not able to access the network via their phone or laptops. If you're using Spectrum, then you'll obviously need to, you don't have to do a lot of troubleshooting. That is it an issue with your access point, or is it an issue with your wireless network, or is it really an issue with the underlying network which is connecting those controllers and access points? Because if you have configured and discovered everything in Spectrum, what would Spectrum really do is it will identify where the fault is. Now, in this example, the example which I have quoted is the L2 switch, which is connecting your wireless net controller and your access point in between. So your switch is down, and that's where your network is not available. Even the access point is up and running over there, the network is not accessible over there. And that's where CS Spectrum tool helps you identify the root cause and the fault quickly, whereas other tools you'll have to do a lot of troubleshooting over there. So that is the primary advantage of using Spectrum, to quickly identify the fault and correct it appropriately. Now, the example which I provided, it is an L2 switchover. In previous example, I provided an example of access point related issues. There could be another scenario where your actual controller is down, whereas your other networks is up and running. But Spectrum will be able to identify it based on the tabs and based on the alarms and events that are coming to Spectrum. And based on that, Spectrum will act on it, and it will show you that fault is actually at the controller and not at the switch and access point. And that's where you can go and quickly rectify the issue and restore your network for your customers and users over there. So another example which I wanted to show you, I'll now quickly go through a demo. This demo is more of a walkthrough on the features we have with Spectrum. I hope you're able to see my screen. Now starting with all the features and use cases, I'll start with that. So first and foremost, if you want to discover your wireless network, obviously the first option which all of you go is go into Discovery Console, feed in the IP addresses of your controllers, and discover your entire wireless network. So as I said earlier, you don't have to really remember your entire range of your access points. All you can do is just feed in your the controller IP address, and Spectrum will do the rest of the things. So once you are feeding your controller IP address into the Discovery Console, all you have to do is come to this option, the modeling option, and check this create wireless access point. So what now Spectrum will do is, along with discovering and modeling your controller, it will also discover all the access points which are associated with this controller. And lastly, it will map all your controllers and access points with those underlying layer 2 switches and routers in your network, so that you get advantage of your fault isolation and root cause. So this was about Discovery Console. So let's assume you have discovered your wireless network, your wireless controller, but you did not opted the option to discover your the access points. But later you realize that you want to discover your access points as well. All you can do is go to this WLC manager which we have created for a better organization for your wireless devices. Go into this information tab, and then all you have to do is hit this discovery button. So once you hit the run, it will go and read all those controllers and then discover all the access points which are associated with this controller. So this is the second option in terms of your discovery of access points. The third, which I was saying, is about create by IP, when you do that, you have to make sure if you want to discover your access point as well, then you have to enable that option, and let me show you that. So all you have to do is go to your VNM model, go to the information tab, and in the VNM model information tab, drill down to auto discovery control and expand this modeling and protocol options. You can see this option, create wireless access point, as you know. Once you set this to yes, and once you do a create by IP discovery with your controller, it will also now do and discover your access points for you. But you have to make sure that you come here and enable that option if you want to do by create by IP. So this was all about your flexible discovery model which Spectrum provides. Next is about your one-click views. Let me come and drill down and show you the topology.
The system has detected that a minimum number of lines are connected to this conference. Do you want to continue your meeting? Press 1 to confirm. If there is no response, the conference will end.
Hey, Susan, we are good and I should continue?
You can continue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So this is my topology view. Obviously, I don't have a good lab like you guys have in your test lab or in your production lab. This is my QA lab with all the simulations, so you won't see that much of a connected network the way you will have in your labs. So what you see in my topology view is controller and then access points connected to it, and you have all of your events tab and alarms tab, which will give you all this information and alarms coming to Spectrum for those controllers. I just wanted to show you the spotlight view which we talked about in the slide, where if you click on the controller, it will give you all those access points which are connected to your controller. So maybe this is not a good view. Let me go inside. So I don't have that yet here, but once you go here and select your controller, what the topology will do is it will highlight all your controllers and access points which are in that network, and what you see is those access points and controllers highlighted, and then you will see how your network is connected over there. So a very quick view to see in that your mesh network, how your controllers and access points are distributed across your network over there. So this was about your visualization topology view. Let me drill down and take you to the information views over there. So as you see in the Explorer view, for a better organization of your wireless devices, we have provided an ability of a WLC manager. So going forward, whatever you discover in terms of controller and access point, everything comes and sits under this WLC manager. And with the respective vendors, you have folders, and underneath folders you will see all your controllers, and underneath controllers you will have all the access points which are associated with that particular controller. Now, if you go to the information tab, there are all sort of views which we are reading from the MEBs and obviously are helpful for you. But I'll touch upon a few things which are important in terms of your proactive monitoring. One was definitely what we told about the threshold configuration. So what you have to do is click on the controller, click on the information tab, drill down to the thresholds view, and this is the place where you can configure thresholds with respect to your number of clients connected to access points and data and mobile stations and then access points. So this gives more and more powers to you in terms of proactive monitoring. The next thing you do is you obviously wanted to know that how many access points are connected, how many wireless stations are connected. So under WLAN information, you do all those, you can go and view all those things. And as I mentioned during the start of my presentation, that this discovery or this information polling is on demand. While the initial discovery of Spectrum, it will only do a wireless controller and access point discovery, but it will not actually go and discover the clients and users also, because the reason behind that is it's a huge data, and we don't want to degrade your Spectrum or Spectrum server performance by pulling that continuously. So every time you come here, click this view, on demand, Spectrum will go and fetch that data real time from the controller. You want to see again that data, just click on the refresh button and it will refresh the view of your access points and the wireless stations connected over there. So another one-click view which gives you within the single pane all the information of your number of access points and the stations connected over there. What else? So I think I'm well in time. This is all I wanted to show in terms of wireless monitoring. So I think I touched upon most of the parts. What I wanted to do is do a live demo, but I do not have a real-time devices where I can show all those root cause and fault isolation over here. So with that, Susan, I think we can open up for questions and take up any Q&A activity here from here onward.
Sure. Excuse me. Okay, anybody that would like to ask a question online can do it in the Q&A chat in the upper right hand of your window, or you can ask a question on the phone line. You just need to hit *6 to unmute your line, and you can ask a question. We'll just give it a half a minute in case anybody's typing. And I do not see any questions in the Q&A window or the chat window. And again, and if *6 isn't working, you could hit #6 if you want to try something to verbally on the phone. There is a question in the chat window, Nagesh. The question is it possible to create a report from W Lcs? And that is in the chat window. So if you want to answer verbally or just write in, it's up to you, or do both.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see that question. Can you repeat that again?
Is it possible to create a report from W Lcs? It's not in the Q&A window. It's in the chat window.
Okay. Okay. So.
And I'm sorry, and it's privately to me. It was probably an error.
I see, and that's the reason I was not able to see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Spectrum does have out-of-box standard reports on the devices, and that's one thing. Let me go back to my presentation and let me cover the roadmap session there. So we do have a standard out-of-box reports where you can look at your performance of your controller and your access points over there. But I understand that you also need a detailed reporting about how many users were connected to a particular access point, or what was the upload and download volume for that controller and access point. So that kind of reporting, it's coming. It's in our roadmap. But whatever Spectrum provides out of box today, in terms of your controller health, your access point health, your number of alarms on your controller, number of alarms on the access point, number of events on that, those reports are there. But more detailed reports in terms of your usage of controller, in terms of your number of clients and mobile stations, those reportings are being worked upon and are part of your future releases of Spectrum. And then along with that, we also wanted to give you a capability of heat map. So today, whenever you have an issue with any of your user, and what today you do is you send an IT guy to see what's happening over there in that floor or in the conference room. But with the heat map capability, you will come to know whether your radio frequency or your signal strength is appropriate just right into that single pane of glass, and you can see that it's an issue with your signal strength of the access point, and then you can fix it without actually going to the floor over there from yourself. Next thing, obviously, you wanted to know the flow information, and then again tied back to the reporting that what sort of applications were accessed, what was the load of this application, which was the most used application. So that kind of flow information obviously is a part of our reporting, and then the next we wanted to do is add more vendor supports in the capability of spectrum monitoring of wireless. So yes, we do have some sort of reporting. We are working on certain reportings, and if you have any specific reports in your mind, feel free to reach out to us, and then we definitely would like to work upon that.
Okay, let's see if there's any other questions online. And just make sure. Okay, I do not see any other questions online. Again, for last opportunity, if you'd like to ask a question. Oh, I see something lit up. Okay, there is a question in the Q&A window. This is, says, I have one question regarding AP Dhcp support. We have Spectrum 10.2, and we have an issue with AP that uses DHCP. We already applied the patches, so I would like to know how to solve the issue. And it is in the Q&A window, if you want to take a look.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not able to see that question as well. So if you have applied the patch and if that issue is still not solved, I think you'll have to raise a support ticket, because to most of the customers who were facing this issue, we have delivered the patches, and all of them, no one has been complained so far, so we'll have to really look what is going on in your environment if that patch is not working for you.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so that answered. Let me know I'm moving slowly. Forgive me, I'm getting used to a Mac. Okay, I do not. Let me just check the chat window. I do not see any more questions that have come in. If anybody would like to ask a last-minute question online, again, *6 or #6 to unmute your line. And outside of that, I do not see any more questions coming in. So Nagesh, any last thoughts or anything you'd like to share before I close it?
No, I just wanted to thank the community users for taking out time and joining this. And obviously, this is not the only session. If you have questions beyond this session, feel free to shoot an email to me. And we definitely would like to follow up that how you are using your wireless network and what is that another set of requirements which you want to see in terms of wireless monitoring in Spectrum, and definitely looking forward for that. And feel free to shoot an email to me, and then I'll definitely respond and then set up a meeting to discuss further.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you, our presenters today. Thank you, Nagesh. Thank you, community members, customers who have joined the webcast. We appreciate your time, and have a great day. Okay.
Thank you.